Hey guys, Kyle here. So, just before the show starts, I wanted to mention our Patreon. You can pay us $1 a month as a thank you, as a tip. You can pay $2 a month to get access to one of our bonus content shows, episodes 2 days early, and a secret Discord chat where all of our Patreon donors get to go and hang out and talk with us directly. Then there's a $5 tier that you can donate to get access to a whole bunch more content. We have multiple bonus episodes on there. So please check it out. Patreon.com/itgetsweird. We don't advertise, we don't make money. So check it out and throw some money if you think that would be cool. Thanks.
Welcome to It Gets Weird, our comedy show where we explore the unusual, the unbelievable, and the unexplained to try to make your world a little weirder. I'm Nile.
And I'm Kyle. And wow, Nile just launching right into it, huh? I wasn't even looking.
Yeah.
I was looking away and we were having a perfectly normal conversation and then just suddenly
this is part of the new initiative I'm trying. Is I think that it's like candid photography, but for podcasting.
Sure.
Where you don't warn the person and you just start the show and then they have to like kind of catch up and you get a lot more of a real reaction of the person when you do it this way.
Yeah. No, this is my actual reaction. So I was not prepared for this. People know that we have scripts to this thing. Like Nile did the research this week, right? And so you have a script that you're reading from, but
it should be in your email. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is like, hang on, I got to click around a second. Cause like I was not ready when you clicking around, opening up the email. All right. I have the script up. But
oddly enough, you're totally on script already. This was the banter I had written for this week.
I'm reading it right now. And this is what it says on the script. Interesting. So I can just keep going. I'm following it now. So,
yeah.
And this is all in there. So,
have you ever seen that or seen that movie Stranger Than Fiction? It's all like that.
Yeah. No, I haven't seen that one.
The Will Ferrell movie. Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
It's not part of his greater canon. We'll say that. It was one of his early attempts at doing a borderline serious role. And it was fine.
Okay.
But it's about like an author writing a book and Will Ferrell is like a character in the book, but he's also a real person. And so like reality blends with fiction and
Is that sort of like the Jim Carrey movie?
Truman Show?
Truman Show. Is it like
Number
Truman
23?
Show? Is this podcast like Truman Show or Number 23? Or maybe a little bit of both. Like it's got a touch of both.
It's honestly like a mixtape.
Yeah.
It's like a mixtape of Number 23, Idiocracy, Truman Show, Stranger Than Fiction, all of the greatest hits of cinema, film,
cinema,
all of those things.
Yeah. Well, I was going to double down on the Jim Carrey side of things and you kind of pulled us away from there. So let me pull you back real quick and say that this podcast,
go ahead.
like our whole thing here is heavily inspired by Jim Carrey. You and Garrett saw the Number 23 without me, I should add, many years ago.
I thought I watched it alone.
No, I think you watched it with Garrett, didn't you? Am I crazy?
Did I? I'm pretty sure I watched it. I think Garrett and I both just independently watched the
maybe.
Number 23.
I sort of remember a conversation between the three of us where you had both seen it, and I had like come back from somewhere, and you were both like, yeah, Number 23, not... In fact, I think it ended up on the podcast because I'm remembering an old joke, actually.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Hit me.
Well, I think...
Whose joke was it?
It was you.
Okay.
Is Jim Carrey's like Yes Man or whatever? Or does he have a movie with a title like that? I'm pretty
he's
sure.
got a movie called Yes Man where he has to say yes to everything.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. You and Garrett were talking about the ending of the Number 23. I'm just this just came flooding back. You say something to the effect of like, yeah, you should have said yes to the barrel of a shotgun.
Jesus. All right.
You said,
man, those early
I'm
years.
Sorry. I realized it's so out of pocket and not how you talk and so fucked up that it's making me laugh really hard all these years later. It came flooding back. Sorry, I don't mean to embarrass you, but that was a funny bit.
No,
look, you wrote this into the script that I'm reading from right now, so
I did. I wrote all of this, much like God. I wish I could remember who played the author in Stranger Than Fiction. It was a woman, I believe. Yeah, the author was a woman. I sorry. Have you seen the thing going around that where someone was like, if you're ever having a panic attack, you should just, if you see someone having a panic attack, you should ask them if they've ever considered that Dr. Pepper is a woman, and that made me laugh really hard, and so that kind of went into that's kind of bunny in my brain.
I've never heard that, but wow, that's really good.
It's a joke, obviously, but like maybe try it out if you're having a panic attack. No, consider the fact that Dr. Pepper might have been a woman.
Can God,
can
I share a funny little thing that happened to me right before we started recording?
Yeah, sure.
I'm sorry, I'll be quick.
I mean, as long as you follow the script, we're good.
Yeah. So, yeah, weird that you knew to write this down, I must say, because it's an email from my dad that happened today.
I'm CC'd on all your emails.
That's so weird.
Or BCC'd.
Yeah, because I'm not. Yeah, that's fucked up. I got to talk with my dad. But my dad is a geologist, right? And he sent me an email. Now, when I have multiple times told a story about how, like, I've been prompted before about, like, oh, what's a time that somebody mispronounced something so incorrectly that you were like, it like drove you crazy and you like whatever. And I have a very vivid memory of when I was younger, I think like elementary school. And I was sitting next to a friend and they were trying to use like some bigger words to kind of show off how smart they are. And they were trying to use the word albeit, which is a word I knew at the time.
Sure.
And
I think I know this story and who you're talking about.
They kept pronouncing it albite. And I kept getting angry and angry because they kept saying it. And I eventually was like, it's pronounced albeit. So, and my dad sent me an email that was just titled "Thought of You," where he's like, I'm going to Tucson for a mineral show, and I was poking around on this website for it. And at the very end, it says, when present, other sulfides react when these iron sulfate solutions, liberating other elements, particularly copper or zinc, albeit more slowly. But there is, in fact, a mineral called albite, Albite. And because this is a person who works with minerals typing this up, their autocorrect seems to have corrected albeit at the end of the sentence to albite. And I just thought that was a very funny thing. And it also kind of forced me to reflect, like, oh, my dad reached out to me because he thought of me. And when he thinks of me, he thinks about times, like, stories of when I've been, like, really annoyed and complaining about something. So it kind of made me have to sort of reflect on myself a little bit. And I also got a little chuckle. The story's got a little bit of everything. So that's...
it's really got... It's got a bit of everything. It's a real 4-quadrant story.
Yeah.
And it also it's really smart that this is the week that we used that bit about your dad's email, because today chemistry is involved in the episode.
Interesting. Okay. So
which makes this like a good crossover kind of transitionary topic to talk about.
I love when I say something that lets us sort of smoothly glide into the actual topic of the episode. Now, it does also remind me that we are inundated, and I feel like this is something to do with topics that we've done in the past year. We have been inundated with emails from people who are like, will mushrooms unlock the secrets of the universe? This doctor knows. Please have them on your show. And
so many people want to.
I know.
People want to cold call us about psychedelics. On our podcast.
I feel like it has to. I feel like partially responsible because of the MK Ultra like drug stuff that I did, on and off the podcast. I feel like that caused some issues
like all of
for us.
your journey into the world of that kind of stuff to deluxe.
So
now this episode could get us some slightly different emails.
Interesting.
For people, because this week, Kyle.
Yeah.
This is entirely born out of the fact that I realized I didn't know as much about this thing as I felt like I should. So this is kind of the purpose of this episode is to fill in a gap for me. and also to, you know, try to cover a thing that is um pretty big in the world of conspiracy right now,
Okay.
or at least was a couple years ago. Still is, but the fervor has died a little bit.
Okay.
Um, because today, Kyle,
Mhm.
I want to talk about what the fuck is adrenochrome.
Mm. We, I think, did an episode where adrenochrome came up.
Yeah.
This stuff is always in the realm of like the especially paranoid, typically far right conspiracy
Yes.
theory stuff. So like it comes up. I think it came up when we talked about Bill Gates depopulation. It came up
Yeah.
when I did Marina Abramovich, I think is her name.
Oh yeah, she's gonna come up today a
Yeah.
little bit too.
So like it's always in the realm of this like, oh, the wealthy elites who help work, who either work with or are part of the shadow government that is going to enact the new world order. They stay young and fit, and they're going to live forever by, you know, ingesting adrenochrome. So
Yeah.
I that's I guess I just gave a rundown.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, that covers most of it, so we can just wrap it up early this week.
Okay. But so
No,
that is what it is then, is what you're saying.
Kinda, yeah. Like it's yeah, that is largely what it is. Just before we get started, there will be discussion of stuff such as like anti-Semitism and blood libel,
Sure, favorite stuff.
child abuse and sex trafficking, QAnon,
Jesus.
Pizzagate, all that
Oh
kind
my
of stuff in
God.
this episode a little
What
bit.
have you done?
Look, it's not going to be heavily covering that stuff. It just is, adrenochrome is tangentially related to all of these things. So there will be mention of those things going forward.
And like, here's the thing. Those people, they come up, it's impossible to avoid at this point. I will say there's a very good podcast. I know we shouldn't do this, but like there's a very good podcast where if you want to learn about that area of conspiracy, QAnon Anonymous, I listen to that, and they're quite good at covering that stuff. It's just, you know, we've said historically, it's hard it's hard to joke about people who like, you know, like the Pizzagate. It's like, it's hard to joke about those people sometimes. But yeah, that's, it's kind of like you can't help it if you're talking about something like adrenochrome, because all that stuff is in that Venn diagram of kind of lunacy.
And you do have to talk about that stuff a bit, but I want to focus actually on kind of how we got to where we are with that, with adrenochrome, along with like what it is in reality. Like I want to focus a lot on adrenochrome itself, because I had a realization a little while ago. It's like, I didn't fully, without a shadow of a doubt, know if adrenochrome is a real thing or not.
Yeah.
And, it's such a pervasive thing when you're reading about conspiracies, that it felt like a thing that I should know.
Yeah.
So I decided to take a bit of a dive and learn the history of it and what it actually is, along with how it has since been co-opted, I guess, by the far-right conspiracy community. So I want to start by talking about the actual chemical adrenochrome.
Sure.
Because, spoiler alert for people that had the same question I did, it is a real thing.
Yeah.
It is. Now, what you hear about it is largely made up, and I can tell you where those things came from and why. I have a pretty good background for how it became what it is. But here is just the straight up facts. Adrenochrome is a chemical compound that is effectively oxidized adrenaline. So it is a byproduct of adrenaline that then kind of gets built up in your system after you have adrenaline and it gets oxidized. There are no actual medical or even really like research applications for adrenochrome proper. The only thing that I could find is in some countries a byproduct of adrenochrome called carbazochrome, which is a derivative, is used in certain places very kind of sporadically as a blood coagulant. So, like, that is legitimately the only actual use for anything related to adrenochrome. It is in very specific instances it gets used as a blood coagulant. Everything else about it is useless. Like there is not anything that it does well that it is used for, or we're even trying to figure out how to use it. Like it has no purpose other than that very, very specific derivative based usage. So largely, this is kind of the theory that I've come up with throughout this episode, doing the research for it. I think we need to rename Adrenochrome.
Oh yeah,
because the name is too cool for such a useless thing. Yeah. And it has led to people. It has in part led to people taking it far too seriously, and trying to make it into something much cooler than it is, which is basically just a useless byproduct of your body creating adrenaline.
Well, like when people like the conspiracy theorists who will fixate on something like adrenochrome, when they talk about that stuff, it's almost in like this is the sci-fi action fantasy movie MacGuffin for the wealthy villains, and they're literally taking the like the blood sucking metaphor of the wealthy to a literal place. So, and I don't want to steal any of your thunder here because I can already kind of connect some dots with where you're going with all this, but then it's at the same time. Let me also throw this out there to sort of complicate things, because I think it is sort of important in a way. We do in fact have, like, I don't remember the guy's name, but within like the last year, there was the news story about the wealthy tech CEO who was using his son's blood he was injecting himself with his son's blood to try and keep himself youthful. Yep. Which, obviously isn't. This is these rich motherfuckers, like, they want to live forever or whatever. But so I don't know how this guy. Do you know who I'm talking about?
I think so. There's the guy that's trying to like perfect himself. That is. Has all of these crazy like spreadsheets of supplements and injections and stuff that he takes to try to keep himself looking young. But I think that might be a slightly different guy than the guy that injects himself with like sun blood. I swear to God, I'm not making this person up. Like, no, I know what you're talking about. I just can't remember the person's name. But yeah, when you. The rich have a lot of the same existential fears of death that we do.
Yeah.
But they have way more fucking money to burn on those fears and a lot less to actually do with their lives. And so they end up doing shit like this, where they're just like trying to inject themselves with something to make themselves not age as much. And it's a cry for help.
It's something.
Yeah, and should be mocked.
Now, let me just read something to you that I just found. This is an article from Metro. I don't know anything about this place, but it says here, Brian Johnson, the tech millionaire who spends $2 million a year to achieve the body of an 18-year-old, most recently transfused himself with the blood plasma of his 17-year-old son. He then
Okay, it is the same guy.
Yeah.
That's the fucking... That guy's like on like low dose E and like estrogen and stuff to like...
He looks terrible.
Yeah, he looks his age. He does not... It is not working, guy. You just have a bunch of fucking injections all the time.
Johnson documents the experience in a 15-minute YouTube video titled, "Will My Son's Blood Make Me Younger?" Yeah, so that's insane.
Hell world.
I mean, it's like you have these people with so much money that they just start throwing shit at the wall, or I guess blood at the wall, really.
Yeah. I mean, he might have something with shit too. There's, oh my God, Parky just came into frame. Oh yeah,
Holy shit. He's hanging out. Don't worry about the guy.
All right.
He's
look, I don't normally remark, but the entrance into frame with just the stretching paws and head coming forward
was a little alarming.
Was really good.
Oh, okay.
But I that was an unintentional reaction.
Sorry, I'm home alone, so I can just leave the door open and let Parky come and go, and he likes to hang out on that couch.
Yeah.
So next time I'll make sure to have the camera trained on him so you can see him before you.
Yeah, honestly, if you could get a second camera that we do kind of a picture in picture thing that just there's like a Parky cam.
Yeah,
I think that would be something that would be really good for everyone involved.
Well, just you, really.
So, well, sure. I mean, I am most of everyone involved.
That's true.
So
there's going to be more people involved later, but don't worry about it.
Yeah. So, yeah, that guy is obviously like needs a reality check. What the fuck are you doing, guy? But
he's not helping the case of people like us who are just like, folks, adrenochrome is not going to, like, the wealthy don't want to suck adrenochrome out of people's bodies. And then we have a motherfucking tech CEO millionaire who is just actually doing that. So it's not helping the case, which is difficult.
Yeah. So let's get in. So adrenochrome literally is it comes from adrenaline, hence the adreno, and chrome is entirely unrelated to chromium, like some people want you to think it is, but it literally just means that pure adrenochrome has a deep violet color. So the chrome in this name is just referring to the color it is when it is synthesized or made. So like, I think chrome, I understand that that's how we name things, but like, it's funny how much saying adrenochrome immediately sounds like you're doing something in cyberpunk, it makes you, so it instantly turns it into like fucking unobtainium kind of like movie villain shit to try to get a hold of. So yeah, the undercurrent of this episode is let's rename adrenochrome. All right, so let's dig into the history of this chemical a little bit, the actual real world history. So adrenochrome was first known about in 1856 when French neurologist Alfred Vulpian, the same guy who discovered adrenaline, observed that adrenaline turns red when exposed to air. So that was the first instance where someone kind of realized there was something here to look into. And then in 1937, David Ezra Green and Derek Richter at the University of Cambridge named the compound and actually described its isolation and characterization. So it was first kind of theorized and discovered in 1856, and then kind of named and fully kind of canonized in 1937. But then studies on the chemical didn't start until the 1950s. Specifically, I think 1954 was the first study that will get referenced a lot when you go on and look at stuff by Canadian psychiatrists Abram Hoffer and Humphrey Osmond. They were doing a lot of research into psychoactive chemicals like LSD not ketamine, mescaline. Okay, that's the other one that they were working with a lot, and they started to notice kind of similar notice a similarity between the symptoms of schizophrenia and the effects of mescaline, which is a naturally occurring hallucinogen in the peyote cactus. And they wanted to look at chemicals that had a similar makeup to mescaline, which adrenochrome does. Adrenochrome is similar in kind of chemical makeup to mescaline. It just is not nearly as psychoreactive,
Yeah.
So they started to do some studies on adrenochrome. Now, there are very few actual studies that have been done on adrenochrome because no one really, like, the most it found out that as like an actual application for it ended up being debunked later in terms of like treatment for schizophrenia. But that was the prevailing thing, was that adrenochrome could be used to try to help treat schizophrenia, was the kind of theory for 20 to 30 years before it got fully debunked.
Interesting.
But even the studies that gave us that information were so small that they had at usually between 15 or even fewer test subjects involved in that study. So we're not dealing with like high level statistical rigor here.
Do you Yeah. Now, do you like have any idea of like what the idea was behind treating schizophrenia with adrenaline? Like, Do you
Yes.
understand what that's?
Well, yeah.
I'm
So
curious.
like I said earlier, adrenochrome is a byproduct of your body creating adrenaline,
Mhm.
and they found that the adrenaline coursing through the system causes that fight or flight response, and then it leaves this kind of deposit of adrenochrome sometimes. And they thought that schizophrenia was caused by the basically pooled adrenochrome in your system being released into your brain and bloodstream.
Weird.
So they thought
Okay.
that like they created you'll still see referred to as the adrenochrome the adrenochrome hypothesis for schizophrenia or something like that is what it ended up getting called. Yeah, the adrenochrome hypothesis of schizophrenia was a paper that they published based on this study where they were basically saying, we think that schizophrenia is linked to buildup of adrenochrome in the body, so you should have high doses of vitamin C and various other antioxidants to try to flush that out of your system, and that can help cure schizophrenia. This is the closest we ever got to like an actual practical usage for adrenochrome, but it ended up being entirely false. Like other places tried to replicate this study and could not replicate the results in any way, shape, or form. And they also, in looking at the study itself, found some things that didn't quite line up, and their methods were just flawed and had a lot of gaps that led to them being basically useless. So even the one small scale study that tried to look into this thing was fucked up and didn't actually produce any usable research.
Bummer. Now, I don't want to. Let me put my tinfoil hat on here,
Mhm.
and I'll be curious where this all goes because, like,
Yeah.
I hear adrenochrome associated with this research, which is being researched by people who were studying LSD in the 50s, and LSD in the 50s would have been kind of distributed through CIA sources. And I get a little, is there anything there, do you think? Or is there any indication that like the idea of adrenochrome is a psyop to make the people crazier? Like, is there anything to that?
I mean, look, you could.
I'm like half joking, but it is kind of interesting.
I know, but it's also you're not. I didn't come across any of that.
Yeah.
But you do get largely in terms of people just looking at, like, if you look at Reddit threads about adrenochrome and stuff, there are people who think that adrenochrome is a thing that is being used to basically make the idea that these secret pedophile rings exist by the wealth and powerful, try to make it seem ridiculous that they're sucking the blood of children. And so that is the cover up for the actual thing where they're just, I guess, selling children for other purposes. So it's one of those, like,
you could
that's the kind of cover up psyop thing that I've seen, but you could totally probably work your way around to, like, I don't know if these people ever had any connections with any things that have been exposed as CIA plants or whatever, but
yeah.
You could look into it.
By no means am I saying that these people are CIA. I'm just saying that, like, that is the era of, like, if you're working with psychedelics, like, especially LSD, that's where you're fucking getting it from, is like it's distributed. If I remember correctly, it was distributed by the CIA to, like, the hospitals and jails and stuff. So that's how it and then they like gave it to people like the fucking guy from the Grateful Dead to then go out and distribute to their friends. So it's I don't know, just interesting, I guess.
Yeah. I didn't come across anything like that. But I, like, with any research like this, there's definitely a chance that, the CIA wormed their way in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Because, like, here's like a weird thing. A lot of people that talk about adrenochrome, like, literally the next thing I talk about here is the same year that the American Psychiatric Association reported basically a full rebuke of Hoffer's work, Hoffer and Osmond's work. That same year, there was a book published called Legal Highs by Adam Gottlieb, which literally just went through all these different chemicals and products and stuff, including entries for things such as catnip and guarana, that would talk about the supposed stimulations and psychedelic effects of various substances that you could get legally. That included adrenochrome, which you then can find out that Adam Gottlieb never tried adrenochrome, never like it. So he was like this book that kind of was, I'm not going to say it had anything close to, but it was kind of circulated a little bit in the vein of like an anarchist cookbook where like it's a dangerous book for people to try to read and like do shit with, you know?
I need to know more about that. So wait, so is this like where, do you remember like the jokes about like, oh, you can smoke banana peels to get high? Like, is that where this comes from?
I would not be surprised if it was. You can still buy Legal Highs on Amazon. Like this book is still readily available. I didn't look deeply into all the chapters involved. But I would not be surprised if some fermented banana peel thing was in that book, because it seems to be a pretty all-encompassing thing where anything that could possibly get you even a little bit of a reaction was put in this book, whether or not anyone had actually tried that thing or not.
That's so insane. That's such a bizarre. Yeah. Okay. All right. That's a weird thing that I didn't know about until just now. So, interesting. Okay.
So it's like I saw someone say who like even if you did it exactly as you're quote supposed to, not from this book, but like injected with a pure adrenochrome correctly and everything, you get more of an effect on your body if you drink a fucking cup of coffee. Like adrenochrome does nothing. It doesn't like it you might mildly feel a little thing that is probably psychosomatic, you know?
Yeah. Sorry. I looked this person up.
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I have not dug deep on Adam Gottlieb, so whatever you're finding right now could very well turn into another episode.
I think I gotta look more into this guy. So there's obviously the Legal Highs book. I'm just looking at his Goodreads list, like stuff that he wrote.
Okay.
And it looks like he wrote a lot of stuff in the 70s. And he's got books like Peyote and Other Psychoactive Cacti. And some boring stuff, but then he's got a book here, The Pleasures of Cocaine, Psilocybin Production, Sex, Drugs, and Aphrodisiacs, Where to Obtain Them, How to Use Them, and Their Effects, The Book of Acid. I don't know, very weird stuff, making my sus meter go off a little.
We found the drug book guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So there was a slight revitalization of a scientific interest in adrenochrome in the early 2000s by when it was discovered that adrenochrome may be produced normally in the formation of neuromelanin. And I don't know enough. This is just what this finding may be significant because adrenochrome is detoxified at least partially by glutathione S transferase. So, and there are people that have genetic defects that make that enzyme harder to make. So there's like some very vague musings on adrenochrome being used to kind of make up for a genetic defect on this specific enzyme. But that is about as far as it goes, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, it also supposedly might poison your heart in large doses.
Oh, good. Okay.
So it, maybe you can use it for that. So that is like the entire history of the actual chemical adrenochrome. It is
kind of ends there.
Not extensive. It's not important. It is a entirely scientifically uninteresting byproduct of your body's chemical reactions. So on that note, let's take a deep dive into the fucking batshit world of how this became something that my parents can probably tell you what it is.
I can't wait.
So as you mentioned earlier, the basic theory on adrenochrome as a conspiracy object is that celebrities and the quote liberal elite have a secret child trafficking ring that they use to extract a drug called adrenochrome. And adrenochrome is either in various places, quote, taken as part of a satanic ritual for just like getting really high, or it also is used to try to prolong youth. It is used as a kind of anti-aging drug, and people really look at it as the reason why celebrities stay beautiful, because people just don't understand, like, I guess, plastic surgery. Like it's so. Supposedly, adrenochrome is extracted in through excess fear and torture of innocence.
You got to get the adrenaline pumping, right?
Yeah, it's because they at least get it right that it's a byproduct of adrenaline. But everything else about it is fucking made up. So, all right. Some people say you have to like remove the actual adrenal gland to get it.
Yeah.
That also
I've
like
seen that.
we can Okay, actually, one final note about the real thing. You can synthesize adrenochrome perfectly fine in a lab. You can buy it online if you have access to chemical suppliers and stuff. Or if you just want to buy things on the internet from China, you can buy it right now. It was like $55 for a vial.
Yeah, but like
that.
that's not the real stuff.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, you will see people try to do that exact thing where it's like, oh, that is lab derived, so it's not pure and it's not the real thing. You have to get it directly from a terrified child.
Okay, see, and here's the thing. That almost takes this to a spiritual element, right? Because what they're saying is like the actual terror of a human being that you're killing or whatever it is you're doing to extract adrenochrome. That the like heightened emotional aspect of it is what gives you the thing that creates long life. Yeah. So it works. Not only it works for like every brand of like fringe conspiracy theorist, including the people who have like a spiritual angle to this stuff. So QAnon also fits in perfectly. It all makes sense. It all makes perfect sense. It makes
we're about to get into that. Sense. So adrenochrome rose to popularity at large due to its ties with Pizzagate and then into the actual QAnon proper, which would talk about, secret sex trafficking and child trafficking rings and adrenochrome harvesting stuff. This kind of took off even further in the COVID-19 pandemic, where Google Trends can show you that there were significant spikes in the Google searches for adrenochrome in March and June of 2020, as it went viral on places such as TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. Reddit actually had to remove a dedicated adrenochrome subreddit on July 30th of 2020, and amidst the fervor of everything around, people will lump in a bunch of top Democrat politicians like the Clintons, the Obamas, celebrities like Tom Hanks and Oprah Winfrey, and various billionaires like George Soros as the people behind this secret cabal. The thing that I like, there's an actual thing that you can see of the rise in celebrity accusations of adrenochrome usage, with people starting to take home videos, stuff to put on the internet during the lockdowns, because they didn't have as much of professional like hair and makeup teams. So celebrities looked slightly more like real people. And this led people to assume that all of these various people were going through adrenochrome withdrawals because the worldwide pandemic and lockdown had interrupted the supply of terrified children.
Can you picture Tom Hanks in full Tom Hanks mode, like trying to extract adrenochrome? He's just like, maybe he's acting like Forrest Gump, like his greatest role of all time.
Sure.
And he's like, you know, about to just cut open the adrenal gland of some kid. I can kind of picture that. That honestly, I would watch that movie.
If Forrest Gump was involved in the harvesting of adrenochrome from terrified children?
Yeah, I would watch that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's something.
Maybe adrenochrome abuse is what made Tom Hanks's son come out that way.
It's responsible for
yeah,
Chet.
Chet might be an Adrenochrome kid.
Yeah. God damn. Yeah, that might be. Look, I don't know how to make sense of Chet Hanks as a person.
Yeah.
Other than, I guess, when you grow up with like one of the just most famous people as your father, you live a very different life than most people. You know,
yeah. I think that's
very
it.
few people tell you no to things, and you can do anything you fucking want. So where did this actually come from? Why do people think Adrenochrome has this fucking incredibly dark origin? Now the actual roots of the tropes and things that's pulling on are centuries old anti-Semitic tropes such as blood
Sure.
libel. Blood libel being specifically the thing, like it, much like they update the right wing updates, like all the transphobic stuff out there right now is just like a new coat of paint on the homophobic stuff they had 20, 30, 40 years ago. It is a 1-to-1 of blood libel to adrenochrome QAnon conspiracies.
You gotta just adapt to the times.
Yeah. But where we actually start for a lot of this stuff is some writers of the era of adrenochrome research in the 1950s, specifically Aldous Huxley and Hunter S. Thompson.
I think I've heard about the Hunter S. Thompson connection, but go ahead.
Yeah. So both of these authors were very interested in psychedelic drugs and hallucinogens in the time period, and were in the age of kind of expanding your consciousness and experimenting with a lot of man-made chemicals and stuff in terms of chasing different highs and everything. And so you can trace a lot of this stuff back to Aldous Huxley's Doors of Perception, which was written just after the first adrenochrome studies, where he described adrenochrome as a, quote, clue that was being systematically followed with the sleuths, biochemists, psychiatrists, psychologists are on the trail. He describes it as a product of the decomposition of adrenaline, which is actually correct. So he nailed that part. But he also looked at it as a, like, the next frontier of psychedelic, of like mind altering, expanding drug to look into, and like, oh, they're going to go figure out how to get it and use it and everything. And then we can all blow open the doors of consciousness. As far as I can tell, the causation goes actual study in 1954, Aldous Huxley writing about it in Doors of Perception, and then Hunter S. Thompson reading about it in Doors of Perception and bringing it into Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Okay.
There's also a brief mention of Adrenochrome in A Clockwork Orange as an optional addition to a cocktail of Moloko Plus. And there's also mentions of it in Frank Herbert's novel Destination Void, which was also from the same era. So this is a thing that was percolating in with a lot of these authors of the time period who were doing exploratory fiction, science fiction, writing about consciousness and mind expansion, and kind of on the drugs forefront in literary canon.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you happen to know what Doors of Perception is about? Because I've always seen it, and I've always been like curious about what it is. And I haven't really read out much Aldous Huxley, except I think we read Brave New World in high school.
Yeah,
that's Aldous Huxley, right?
Correct. That is Aldous Huxley. I'm trying to let me check here. So the reference in the book is he described a character as that's Frank Herbert's. Do I have?
It's okay if you don't know. I was just curious because
I believe it's in largely in the camp of talking about kind of consciousness and stuff, but I believe it's an actual like novel, so it's like a psychedelic thing. Yeah, I don't have a lot about that book specifically because it just kind of mentions it, and then that is the bridge to the Hunter S. Thompson stuff that really blows the
Yeah,
doors off
yeah.
the fucker. So yeah, that's where we're at. Then it continues with stuff like Legal Highs picks up in 1973, but where I think a lot of people really got I think the film adaptation of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas might be the main thing that led to our current perception of adrenochrome. Because in the book it all this stuff is also in the book, but the movie was a major thing that people like in terms of consuming it, because you'll see a specific clip of the film Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas shared when talking about adrenochrome, which is where he's literally describing the usage and the effects of this drug.
I remember that. Yeah.
And he specifically states that it can only be extracted from human glands. So like this is where that trope basically starts, is in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, that like you have to terrify a child because like there are people that are still theorizing. There's an offhanded comment about when they're entering the hotel in the movie that this guy is talking about a 16-year-old who was brutally murdered and had stuff removed that's like in the background, and people say that is the harvestation of the harvesting of adrenochrome for that then got sold to Gonzo in the book and in the movie that is then used later on. It's so like in a lot of ways you kind of have Hunter S. Thompson to blame for adrenochrome being a alt-right QAnon conspiracy theory
that
thing.
Was the intention, but yeah, that's fair enough.
No.
Yeah.
So if you listen to the commentary track with Gilliam and Thompson, you start to realize that Gilliam especially thinks that Hunter S. Thompson just like made this up whole cloth. Like, I don't think that Gilliam thought that adrenochrome was a real thing when he made that movie, and Hunter S. Thompson also claimed to basically have made up the whole thing. So neither of the people that were involved in this, in like the creation of this scene, were under any delusion that this was real in any way, shape, or form. And they thought that it was just like a, because like the whole gonzo journalism thing is about kind of hyperbolizing your own self and your own your life to make these kind of interesting things happen and reflect on the state of everything, whatever. And so they were operating under that assumption that this was hyperbole, that this was metaphor, that this was, a visual and story hook of a super drug that fucks you up more than any other drug and makes mescaline look like ginger beer, I think is the quote in the book.
That makes too much sense. They have to be basing it off of the very real, dark, seedy underbelly of organ harvesting drugs.
So much like a lot of other terrible things, the trace for when this started to get roped into the actual conspiracy theory world comes from 4chan in 2013 and 2014 on X and on /poll. So for those that don't know, X is the kind of
it's paranormal. That's what it's
paranormal.
Well, okay, that's what it is called, but really people post deranged far right conspiracy, anti-Semitic.
Yeah, it kind of turned into a conspiracy board, and then poll is politics.
Which is
so that is
the racism board.
Basically. It is even back when like 4chan wasn't a horrible thing to like have involved in your life in any way, shape, or form. You didn't if you were a /POL poll user, no one else wanted to have anything to do with you.
So let me just throw this out there, because I used to be a browser, especially of X, and like it's not, the site was never good. Like don't get it twisted. It was never a good website, but I was also an edgy teen. So I was looking at that
Yeah.
stuff. But the thing is, once they introduced the poll board, that's when people became exceptionally more open and frequent with just deliberate. Like that stuff was always there, but the racism and anti-Semitism ramped the fuck up as soon as that board opened up, and it just was like a snowball effect for what the site would become known for. That, like, again, stuff was always there. It got way worse after that. So yeah.
Yeah. And on that board, the source post for a lot of these things was a video of what I believe is confirmed to have been a Marina Abramovich spirit cooking ceremony.
Fucking known this was a 4chan spirit. I should have known. I should have known.
That was linked with the comment, Jew ritual blood libel sacrifice is hashtag adrenochrome harvesting. And that video then got spread and linked to this thing to the point where it was still being shared around in 2016 when Pizzagate was really kind of heading into full swing. So this is where the Marina Abramovich stuff comes back in. It is her art piece. It's the art piece that spawned like 4 different awful conspiracy theories.
I covered that like forever ago, but yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember where you... I very vividly remember the day that it was like after all the Pizzagate shit had gone down. My dad said the words 4chan out loud to me. And it scared the shit out of me. It was like, I don't know. It's just one of those things where it's like, yeah, I used to browse this when I was young, but it was mostly people posting memes, and some of the memes on there were racist, right? But now it's become such a more fucked up thing. And to have it travel all the way to like 2016 or whenever that my dad is like, my dad and I all like pretty regularly discuss politics. He brings up Pizzagate and says 4chan to me, and I was like, this is fucked. This is surreal. I hate this.
Yeah. So the thing that I feel like the main thing that I want to cover here in regards to Adrenochrome and the spread of the conspiracy can be best exemplified by talking about Monsters, Inc. So
I kind of get it.
So Monsters, Inc., for those that don't remember the plot of Monsters, Inc., there's this alternate world that is linked to basically every door in the world, where monsters work for a corporation that scares children. Monsters under the bed is the starting idea. And these monsters come in and harvest fear from these children to basically act as electricity in the monster world.
Now, you have to think that is probably an open signaling to the masses of the truth.
Some people do. Oh boy, some people do. But that isn't even the part that is like, yes, that is part of it where people will say that is the kind of I forget what the word for it. There's a word for it where they're like seeding these ideas and kind of showing. Basically, they're taunting the general public is effectively the method of a lot of this stuff.
Well, if you're talking about actual CIA, like actual CIA shit, it's called a limited hangout. So Monsters Inc. is the Adrenochrome limited hangout. Which is an insane idea, but sorry, go ahead.
So it's like how Cowboys versus Aliens was about disclosure. Right. So there's also this thing that you will find where people, through absolutely no reasoning whatsoever, have assumed and commented on posts enough about the reference in a lot of Pixar movies for A113. Do you know what that is?
Yes, I am familiar.
Kyle, what is A113?
I don't remember what it's just a thing that appears in the movies a lot, but it was like, I think like a studio they used to work at or something. Am I remembering?
It was a classroom for where a lot of them went to college.
A classroom. Okay.
It was like the animation classroom. I think is where it comes from. At like SoCal or something.
Yeah, almost definitely.
Wherever a lot of them went to school. Sure. It was like the animation computer lab.
Okay.
So that reference A113 will pop up on license plates, on like anytime they need a random number or something, it gets used in Pixar. But there started to be people saying A113, that's showing up a lot. That has to be something.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And that has to be linked to Adrenochrome.
Oh, no.
If you search on Google to this day. I checked it as like an hour before we recorded this podcast. If you search chemical A113,
oh fuck,
on Google, adrenochrome pops up. There are no ties in chemical notation in anything between adrenochrome and A113. But we have, through sheer force of will and sheer force of paranoid conspiracy thinking, made it so when you Google something, you Google A113 chemical, you get the Wikipedia article for adrenochrome. And that is the best way I can summarize how a lot of this stuff has spread, is that whole thing about people saying, oh, Joe Rogan, he just asks questions. He's not doing anything harmful. He's just asking questions. If you ask enough questions enough time, Google's going to start linking A113, the cheeky Pixar reference about their school classroom, to fucking adrenochrome.
Yeah, to adrenochrome, which then leads you to like pedophile cabal conspiracy theory, blood libel shit. Yeah.
It is so a like the internet eating itself.
Yeah.
In that way. And so much of this stuff is just someone saying something and it going like there's a term that I found in researching this called hidden viral, which is basically a thing going viral in a way that a social media can't fully track, because it's kind of it's not
people
not
aren't
abusing
sharing
their
it
algorithm
like
in the way.
hashtags, right?
Yes.
They're just talking about it and it becomes associated with certain things.
And it goes viral in kind of niche subsections of social media. And so because you have the, like, people are just willing these correlations into existence, and then once those correlations start showing up on Google, then people just assume there's a correlation there.
Yeah.
And it ends up affirming itself.
I've been thinking about this recently, and I'm just going to throw it out there. We don't have to go into it.
Yeah.
We live in MK Ultra world.
Yeah.
That's what this shit.
Well,
that's
it.
Fuck.
It's also like we base adrenochrome is effectively an internet tulpa.
Yeah.
It's a thing that didn't exist in the way that, like, the version of it that people talk about did not exist. But enough people have said it enough times, linked in the right version of words on the internet, that the algorithm has decided that those things are real. And it's poisoning a lot of people.
I don't know. Jesus.
So after, so that brings us up to the Pizzagate stuff in 2016. And it just kind of started to grow from there. You started to have people releasing, conspiracy filmmakers releasing documentaries on YouTube about it, which would then get taken down and then get put on a backup channel. And then they can say, this YouTube doesn't want you to see this, which drives engagement. And then it finally broke into what I would consider the mainstream of conspiracy stuff. In that it was featured in InfoWars starting in February 2019, linking it to the Clinton Foundation via EpiPen manufacturers.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And there also was a, quote, young blood transfusion startup called Ambrosia that someone tried to launch around then that also got tied into adrenochrome.
I remember that. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the more, like... And then the coronavirus stuff happened, and celebrities started taking a lot more photos and videos at home, and people just assumed that was also happening around the same time as, like, the Wayfair shit. So people were just primed to turn everything into these conspiracies. And then you even got like videos of Lady Gaga working in a Maria Abramovich performance.
Yeah.
So then she started being part of the, like, it just it spun so far the fuck out of hand with all of these things, to the point where, like, the CEO of Google was questioned by the House Judiciary Committee, I think, in 2018 about the cute nickname for the original Marina Abramovich video that got circulated starting on fucking 4chan, which was called Frazzle Drip.
What?
Yeah. So Google CEO Sundar Pichai was questioned by the House Judiciary Committee in 2018 about adrenochrome, and the supposed frazzle drip video, which was supposedly scrolled away on Anthony Weiner's laptop, and if it leaked, it would show the frazzle drip thing would show Hillary Clinton and her one-time aide, Huma Abedin, performing a satanic sacrifice where they drank blood while wearing masks from the skin of the child's face. So frazzle, like this is a thing that is being talked about by the House Judiciary Committee.
Yeah.
To Google, I'm
floating somewhere between you just gotta laugh and humanity is incredibly disappointing.
Yeah, to me, the thing that I brought up the Monsters Inc. stuff because I think that best exemplifies where I'm at with it right now, in that we don't know how to use the internet. The internet is like a thing that has grown beyond what we are reasonably able to work with. And because of how far commerce and capitalism have driven this thing that's supposed to be an information sharing tool, the idea that information is valuable has been killed to such a point that we just generate whole fucking conspiracy theories and entirely alternate realities out of thin air by searching bullshit on Google.
Yeah.
And it is incredibly kind of depressing in some ways.
Yeah, it is. The internet has become an incredible look. Okay, here's a conspiracy theory for you.
Go for it.
The internet was developed by the Department of Defense.
Correct.
And the big takeaways from MKUltra were about how to mass manipulate the public, how to, basically how to drive people insane. And that seems to be what the primary function of the internet is becoming.
It's for that and trying to get as much personal data about you as possible.
It's money making. It's money making, and it's driving people insane. It's like actually making people become too far gone in these like really insane insular spaces, and they end up doing it to themselves with like no real need for an outside push. It's I don't know. It's disheartening, I guess.
Yeah.
And a very funny way to end the episode.
Yeah, here's the thing. I wanted to drop this off at the end of the year to kind of sneak it in under the wire so that we can start fresh with something a lot more fun in the new year. I
had fun,
yeah,
to be clear.
But like it's just, this was a thing that I felt personally that I needed to know more about, and maybe there are other people that listen to this podcast that haven't done the dive either, because I think it's a public good for people to understand what adrenochrome actually is, and also how dumb the origins of the conspiracy theory are.
Yeah.
So
you can.
This is the public good episode at the end of the year.
I completely agree. I think it's great. I'm glad we were able to talk about this. And now, if your stupid uncle at Christmas is like trying to pull you aside and, talk to you about, QAnon and adrenochrome, you're armed with information now that probably I'm going to be real with you. It's not going to matter if you give them that information, because actual information doesn't matter to people who are that deep in, but like you can try, I think. Yeah.
You at least know enough to know that they're full of shit.
I'm so lucky I don't have QAnon family. I thought for sure at least one or two people in my family were going to fall down that hole, but I'm lucky enough to say they have not.
Yeah, I don't think I have full blown. I have some right wing people,
definitely,
but I don't have
right-wingers.
I don't have full blown conspiracy brained people. Luckily, yeah. So anyway, to go, I guess, to end this episode a little with a little more lightheartedness. Which, here's the thing, Kyle. In saying that, you could make my big question dark if you wanted to, and I'm going to ask you, in the spirit of good humor, to have fun with it.
Okay.
So do you want to do a big question?
But see, now that you've said it, I'm only going to be able to go to dark places.
Yeah, and hey, look, if there's a certain point where dark wraps so far around, there's it's the horseshoe theory of dark jokes.
Yeah, it's like when Nile said that Jim Carrey at the end of number 23 should have shot himself in the face. That does kind of wrap around to be very funny to me. I'm sorry, I can tell you don't like it, but it did make me laugh.
Oh no, look, I stand by that joke.
Okay.
I don't remember making it, but actually I kind of vaguely do. And it was one of those things. There are certain, I don't know if you have this, but there are times where something comes into your brain and it's like, that would be really funny, but it is
you're
so
pushing,
borderline in good taste. Should I actually say that? And hey, the Gremlins won out that day, and one of those slipped out on the podcast.
And I think because it's you, it's funnier. Honestly, like yes, do I ever feel like I'm about to cross a line? Do I ever cross line? Nile, yes, I do. I really do.
Yeah.
I 100% do. So I get it.
Yeah. So big question time.
Yeah.
If you could force the response on the record of one major government official on any conspiracy theory you desire, what conspiracy would you most want to grill a government committee about?
Oh, fuck. So I'm going to tell you the first thought that came to my mind because I was like listening to actually, here's the thing. This was the thought that came to mind before you really finished your whole question.
Right. Yeah.
And it was instantly,
you get ahead of yourself I do the same thing.
I want to know about Ted Cruz's relationship with the butter cow. Was like where my brain went instantly. Okay. If you remember that, where Ted Cruz was like standing in front of, he's like, wow, cow made of butter. My daughter would love this. Or something like that.
Hey, that's not like, not really a conspiracy theory, but honestly, I'll take it for this. No, it's for the big question of this episode.
I'm okay. Oh fuck. Okay, I'm gonna get this wrong, and there may be people out there listening who know what I'm referring to, and I hate. This was a post made by somebody online. And the post was made about, oh fuck, I even know the username, but I don't want to out the thing too hard. But hopefully this will serve as a signal to the kinds of people who will know what I'm talking about to get back to me, and then I can tell you on another episode. There was a person posting online about how they discovered that there was this Republican, he was some sort of politician, a really shitty right-wing politician who had previously attempted to get into stand-up comedy, and he had like a fucking like fake tan spiked up bleached hair look. And the person posted like, I would give so much money to see a clip of this person's stand-up sets because they're like a completely deranged like politician. I would grill on that specific thing. I think to release the footage of that guy. Fuck, I feel stupid for bringing it up, but like I've always, because I read that post and I was like, that's got to be so heinous to the point of wrapping around to be hilarious. And I would see if Congress or somebody could, pull that out for me.
It really should be studied, the amount of unhinged right-wing grifters and low-level politicians
it's like
have
Ted Cruz
failed screenwriting and comedian backgrounds.
And they always try, and they'll like try and reinvent themselves, and depending on things. It's like, do you remember I almost said Tom Cruise. Ted Cruz did some of that like image reinvention where he had like, did he grow facial hair or something?
Yeah,
he looked like
he
fucking
tried to,
gross. So it's just stuff like that. And yeah, I just remember, I'm going to get this wrong. Already know I'm confusing it with another thing, but this guy's stand-up persona was something, it was something, it had the same cadence as Johnny Five Stacks or something like that. And I'm realizing right now that when I say Johnny Five Stacks, I am in fact confusing myself with Johnny Five Aces, which is another internet reference. So...
that one I know.
Somebody out there who like caught every stupid thing I just said in the last 5 minutes, email us, hit me up, let me know what the fuck I'm talking about, please, because I'm not sure I do.
The alphabet soup of internet references that you just made. If someone caught a spoonful that made sense,
Please,
feel free to send us an
please.
email. Look, here's the thing. The big answer would be JFK assassination.
Sure.
Of course. Like that's the big one that you really just want to see some politicians sweat because they know a little too much.
Yeah.
That's probably the big one. But I legitimately there's a conspiracy theory that I think is so funny in its usage and in its propagation that for some reason this just sticks with me, and that is if you're on a government, if like a government official is like having a press conference or whatever, and the flags behind them have a gold fringe, that means that we're secretly under martial law. And this is something that has stuck with me ever since I first read about it like 5 or 6 years ago, whatever. And it's just there's not enough to do an episode on it. I've tried multiple times because that's all it is. It's just like this supposed secret code that like we're under secret martial law. But
you want to see what they know about that.
Yeah, I want someone on record to either confirm or deny that the like set decoration people at the White House are like briefed on this enough to switch out the flag. Like, you know, like I want to know the fucking mundanity of this crazy thing that I've read about so badly, because it's obviously made up. To be clear, I know it's made up. I know it's fake, but it's such a funny idea that like if you turn the TV on and see some gold fringe around the flag, you're like, oh shit, where things are about to go down. Oh my God. I think that's fucking hilarious.
You know,
so
I think one of the things that should be a practice for somebody who has a tendency towards paranoid government, like weird conspiracy theory, and they hear something like they put gold fringes on the flags to signal to the public that we're under martial law. And I want them to just picture in their mind the backroom meeting between the people who arranged that. Just picture that in your mind. And I feel like the sheer absurdity, you rotate that in your mind a couple times, the sheer absurdity should dispel the thought and save you.
In a just world, yes.
Yeah. It works for me, I guess. So
yeah. So that's my brainworm for the week. We're ending this year on a bit of a controversial note.
Yeah.
So we can start fresh next year with all the good clean fun that we normally have on this podcast.
Yeah, and I like your brainworms, Nile. You know this. It's a part of what makes this podcast work. And I much prefer it to the brainworms that are currently, pulling the control system in RFK Jr. that's going to cause them to ban vaccines. Yeah. So that's
I hope everyone likes polio.
I do.
So do you want to take care of some business?
Let's do it.
All right. So if you want to follow us on social media, we're on Twitter at IGW Podcast, and we're also on Blue Sky at itgetsweird.bluesky, the whole thing. If you look up It Gets Weird on Blue Sky, you'll find us.
And then, of course, we're on Facebook.com/itgetsweirdpodcast.
And we're also on all your favorite podcatchers. If you want to listen to podcasts somewhere, look up It Gets Weird, and we're almost certainly there.
And then you mentioned Blue Sky, twitch.tv/itgetsweird. I stream there with Colin sometimes. It's going to be a little on and off during the holiday season. We'll see when we'll get more streams going, but hopefully again very soon. So if you like that sort of content, me and friend of the show Colin will have been streaming Elden Ring. I've been also, when I've had time, streaming Baldur's Gate 3, so that's been fun. So please come check it out. Email us, especially if you know. Anytime I shout out is like, hey, hit me up about this thing. Hey, email us. Email us at podcast. Wait, hang on. itgetsweirdpodcast@gmail.com is the email you should email us at. So go ahead and hit us up. And if you have like a cool story or some interesting thing to tell us about, or hell, maybe we said something that was incorrect, let us know. Hit us up. We'll read your email on the show. People love to be pedantic when they catch a podcaster slipping. So please go ahead and hit us up. Just let us know how we're supposed to address you, and we might read your thing out on the show. Now, this is the most important thing, especially during the holiday season. If you want to give us a good gift this holiday season, you're going to want to go over to patreon.com/itgetsweird. We have a $1 tier, a $2 tier, and a $5 tier. Now, these are also fantastic gifts. If you're like, my loved one's been craving non-public content, podcasting content, this is the perfect gift, and now's the time to get them the gift of It Gets Weird. At the $1 tier, it's just a tip. That's not actually the bonus content tier. You're just giving us a buck and saying, hey, I like your show. Thanks for doing what you do. But if you want the bonus content, we have a $2 tier. $2 tier is the cheapest thing we could do, basically, outside of the $1 tier. $2, you get to get It Gets Weird TV. Comes out every other week. Nile and I discuss weird TV shows, talk about all the weird stuff relevant to them, some of the behind-the-scenes stuff, and we just discussed the TV show. And right now, we're talking about Neon Genesis Evangelion, my favorite anime. We also have a $5 tier where you're going to get It Gets Weird TV plus another bonus show on the off weeks of It Gets Weird TV, where we are doing a show called World of Weird, where Nile and I just get to talk about whatever the fuck we want. It's been a good show. It's been a lot of fun. We're talking about all kinds of stuff. If you like our tangent sort of stuff and our goofy asides, that's basically what the entire show is. So at the $5 tier, you're getting the most bang for your buck. Both tiers, you're getting just a ton of backlogged content. You have so much extra stuff to listen to. It's fantastic. So please, $5 tier, best bang for your buck. Whether you donate at the $2 tier or the $5 tier, you get access to the main show 2 days early on Friday instead of Sunday. And you get access to the Discord where we're hanging out, chatting with our listeners, talking about Bigfoot, all the things that people like to talk about. They can talk to us directly there. If you don't get an invite to the Discord, go ahead and let me know on Patreon. Shoot a message through Patreon. We'll try and fix it up for you because that shit's been broken for us. So I really should take another stab at fixing that. So please check out our Patreon, patreon.com/itgetsweird. But if you can't donate, tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your congressman all about It Gets Weird podcast.
All right. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for continuing to support the show. And everyone have a happy holidays.
Yes.
This has been It Gets Weird, and I've been Nile.
Hey, Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah. I'm Kyle signing out.